Here, 3, 2, 1. Woo! I should have made that the real one. That was pretty good. All right, guys, it's time for Sean Fitzgerald.
Thank you very much. Sorry for the delay. How's it going, folks? Like you already said, my name is Sean Fitzgerald. Where am I from? Thank you very much. Great question. Needs to be right into my set. My name is Sean Fitzgerald, but unlike my name and accent, I was actually born and raised in Germany. Thank you for the cheer. Yep. Thanks to Israel and Russia, we're no longer the bad guys, so we're not getting cheers yet, but we're doing better, so that's okay. But it's an interesting mix being Irish and German. You know, the German part of me wants everything done perfectly, correctly, to the T, efficiently, and the Irish part says yes, but we'll do that tomorrow. And it was interesting that I moved to Ireland at a young age, and it was great for me because I think if I hadn't moved to Ireland, I wouldn't have been diagnosed with autism. That's right, not a straight white comedian with mental health issues. There's only two types of comedian really in Ireland: those with mental health issues and those that don't know they have mental health issues. But growing up in Germany, it was difficult being diagnosed with autism because Germany is not really a country where it's okay to be enthusiastic about trains. You don't want to be that guy on the platform watching trains come in going, "Hi!" That doesn't work. And you go to a doctor at a young age and you say, "I think I might be autistic." And the doctor says, "Well, why do you think you might be autistic?" And it's like, "Well, I have trouble reading facial emotions and I'm super pedantic about numbers." And the doctor is like, "Well, why do you have trouble reading facial emotions?" Is there only two? Serious and very serious. And being pedantic about numbers, this is just correct. This is why we say 5.8 and not 6 million. I know that gets a little bit dark, but it is a gas joke at the end of the day. And obviously being autistic, being in comedy, I grew up hanging around with a lot of autistic people. We didn't realize it at the time. It took a while to be diagnosed, but I now got into this habit, as autistic people do with me and my friends. We have a monthly games night, and it's in memoriam of a friend of ours who died a few years ago. And we have this games night every month to remember him. And kind of what comforts us when we're talking about him is that we remember he died doing what he loved. And that is true as long as we tell ourselves he loved having cancer. Don't worry, you would have fucking loved that joke. But I got married recently. Thank you very much. I say recently, it was 8 years ago. But it's very important to get a cheer when you're transitioning from a Holocaust joke, so that's important. But it was cool getting married because growing up, I wasn't really the best with women. Just let the shock wear off there for a second. Not exactly the sex god you see before you now. And when I say sex god, I do mean my sex life is a lot like God, in that there is one person who says it's true, but most people are like, come on. But I like to tell people that the reason I wasn't good with women was for religious reasons. But that's just because whenever I approached a woman, she would say, "Jesus God, no." But, going on to get married, it was fantastic, obviously. Changed the scene for me, and, being married now, my wife has introduced me to two sons. That's pretty awesome. And then after a while, she suggested, "Oh, we should try out threesomes." And I said, "Oh, okay." And they are a lot of fun. So she tells me. Obviously, I'm joking. I'm allowed to be involved as long as I don't cry too loudly. I did actually pick up a nickname in the bedroom. They call me the tripod. But that's just because I'm the guy who holds the camera, so that's interesting. But funny enough, my wife actually is American. Almost as much enthusiasm as Germany. Fantastic, thank you very much. Like I said, we've been together now for 8 years. So, we've picked up a lot of habits off of each other. She's picked up a lot of Irishisms. I picked up a lot of Americanisms. She's now wanders around Ireland. She knows that you have to call all genders the lads. She knows that anything less than 5 beers does not count as a drink. And most importantly, she has learned that conflicts in the Middle East, white people are not the good guys. Whereas I, of course, have picked up some Americanisms. I say things like herb, or oregano, or aluminum, or if he didn't want to be shot, he should have complied with the officer. Alright. But yeah, just to throw another country into the mix, we were actually living in Belgium the last 3 years. Way more boring country, no jokes about that, that's okay. But we were living in Brussels, and sorry, is there anybody from Belgium here? Good, that's really important for this part. So we were living in Belgium, and a friend of mine from Dublin came over to visit. And we were, having a few drinks, chilling out. My wife was working, and he said, Sean, where's Alexis tonight? She said, oh, she's working. He said, oh, where's she working? She's working in Ghent, another city outside of Brussels. And he said, well, how long would it take to get from Ghent to Brussels? Like, how long would it take her to get home? I said, well, it'd take about 40 minutes, give or take. He said, no, you do it in 20. The Dublin confidence. I said, well, Ricky, you've never been to Brussels. You've never been to Belgium. How do you know? He said, no. Traffic's good, you do it in 20 minutes. I was like, no, honestly, it's a Friday night, it'll probably take an hour. He said, come on, roads will be empty, you do it in 15. I was like, an hour and a half with the roads wet. And I think this is why Irish people don't haggle. We just get further from the point. We don't want to help each other out. So alcohol is involved, we're drinking, we're going along. After about half an hour, he's sitting at the door, putting on his shoes, saying, I'll fucking walk it in 10 minutes, I'll show you. I'm on the PC booking a ferry via Amsterdam, but it's going to take her 3 days, at least. And then the moment of clarity hits, and I realize, okay, wait, Ricky, I have a way to settle this. Sit down. He's like, okay, what are you going to do? And I take out my phone, and I text my wife. I say, hey babe, fancy some sexy time? And she responds, ooh, what has you in such a frisky mood? And I replied, well, my wife's not home. Turns out Ricky was right, you can do that drive in 20 minutes. And we actually had a son recently as well. Thank you very much. I say recently, he is 11. That's the German efficiency there, getting 2 punchlines out of 1 joke. And it is interesting, you give an applause for having a baby, but you don't get an applause for, saying I have an 11-year-old, which is interesting because there's a lot more videos on the internet about making a baby than there is about raising a baby. But, for comedy it is great having a son, having an American wife. The American wife, if I ever bomb, she's the first to publicly justify it. Having the son, he asks me crazy questions. Like, one time he asked me, he said, hey Dad, have you ever accidentally pooped in the shower and then had to squeeze it down with your feet just to hide the evidence? And I was like, number 1, that's an oddly specific question. And number 2, no. Which was truthful of me, because he had used the word accidentally. And then another time he asked me another question, which was very useful for comedy. He said, hey Dad, have you ever falsely attributed a quote to me just for the pure reason of setting up a joke and making up something I said? And I said, no son, don't be ridiculous. Now let's go finish building this orphanage. Hey! My name's Sean Fitzgerald, guys. Thanks very much. Have a good night.
Unbelievable, Sean, unbelievable. Do I need to correct your dad jokes though?